Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
A public safety alert on a college campus just as the fall semester gets underway. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi, a San Diego State student, reported being sexually assaulted by someone who may have posed as a rideshare driver. KPBS reporter Alexander Nguyen talked to students about the safety measures that they take when using ride-sharing services.
With the semester just starting, the San Diego State campus is bustling with activities. One thing that was on top of mind today for many students was the sexual assault over the weekend by someone a student believed was a rideshare driver.
It makes me feel threatened.
Graciela Garcia is a freshman at SDSU. As a San Diego native, she commutes to school using public transportation. She says the incident made her more alert when using ride-sharing services.
Especially because it was like, it could be coming or going from school. And since I do that every day, it's like, I could be at a threat sometimes too.
For senior Anusha Palani-Velu, it's about the loss of trust in ride-sharing services. She's used the services to get to and from SDSU for events on campus.
Like whether you've been like drinking or something like that, you know, you take a ride share because you trust it that you'll get home safe, right? And so that happening in a ride share is like, it's unimaginable, it's unthinkable.
Police say the assault happened on 70th Street in the college area. A student got into a car at an unknown location and was assaulted before they were dropped off. SDSU says university police and SDPD have increased patrol on campus and the surrounding area with the start of the fall semester. University police also advise students to use the SDSU Safe app to share their location in real time when using ride-sharing services. Garcia says in addition to letting her boyfriend know her location at all times, she also makes sure that she leaves a hair strand behind or her fingerprints.
Because if I'm ever going missing or like anything, my DNA can be traced and they'll know that it was me and that I was in that situation. So it makes it easier to find me.
I always FaceTime friends when I'm walking in places that I don't feel safe in, or if I'm in like a sketchy ride share maybe or something like that. I keep friends on the phone while I'm going to places.
Officials say you should also trust your instincts and avoid poorly lit areas. Alexander Nguyen, KPBS News.
And now to our other top story of the day. A heat wave has arrived in Southern California, and meteorologist Bree Guy is keeping an eye on what is expected to be near record-breaking temperatures in our county.
Well, it's not a good sign when my dress matches the maps behind me. Excessive heat warnings in place across areas further inland and also through parts of the deserts. And we also have heat advisories out. So the big story for at least the next day or so is going to be the heat. But we do have relief on the way. We'll tell you when we are going to start to cool down coming up.
Firefighters in our area are also keeping a close eye on the weather. Higher temperatures means higher risk for wildfires. And while the extra rain did help a little bit, firefighters say it was not enough to eliminate the risk from existing dry brush.
If we don't have the wind, if we have the slope and the heat like we're going to have these next few days, we can get a major fire on our hands. So we have to be careful.
And the captain also said that firefighters are prepared. They're fully staffed with their engines, trucks, and air resources ready to go. And a reminder, if you need a place to escape the heat, there are various designated cool zones at libraries, recreation centers, and other places throughout the county. They are all listed online at coolzones.org, and you can also call 211 to find a location near you. And if you can't get to a cool zone, you can ask for help with free transportation. The unofficial end of summer is just around the corner. The Labor Day holiday will cap off a busy summer season at San Diego International Airport. Here's KPBS reporter John Carroll.
At the airport, passenger counts have nearly rebounded to pre-pandemic levels. A week out from Labor Day, and it's busy. But from everything we saw, things were pretty calm. Call it the calm before the storm. As we head through this week, the number of passengers traveling through San Diego International Airport is headed straight up.
Based on what we've seen during this summer, we will have about 80,000 people coming and going through the airport during the Labor Day holiday each day.
Some quick math tells you that equates to about 400,000 people moving through the airport from Friday through Tuesday. That would make for delays on a good day, but don't forget these are construction days at the airport. Crews are in the process of building the new Terminal 1 and the Terminal 1 parking garage. Nicole Hall says that makes it more important than ever to allow plenty of time.
We recommend that people come about 2 hours ahead of time, and if you plan to park, make a parking reservation.
Better yet, Hall says take public transportation. Use a rideshare service or a taxi, or have a friend or family member drop you off or pick you up. Another option is parking off-site.
We have a San Diego flyer that will take you from the Old Town Transit Station to the airport for free.
At TSA checkpoints, you don't have to show a boarding pass any longer, just your picture ID. Remember the items you cannot bring in checked bags or carry-on. Finally, you might be wondering, when will all those construction delays come to an end? Hall says that will happen in phases.
Our first phase of Terminal 1 will be completed in 2025. Our parking structure for Terminal 1 will be completed at the end of 2024. The entire Terminal 1 will be completed in 2028.
In other words, patience is something you'll need at the airport over the next week and for the next 4+ years. John Carroll, KPBS News.
And time is money when it comes to your daily commute. Coming up, how much money San Diegans are losing while sitting in traffic, and which parts of the county are the worst for your wallet. Coastal erosion means it's a problem to have train tracks right along the beach. One solution, to move the rail line off the coastal bluffs, including in Del Mar. Plans to tunnel that portion of the rail line are underway. But KPBS North County reporter Tanya Thorne says Del Mar residents are not happy about it.
Just a few feet of delicate rock stand between the scenic Del Mar rail line and the beach down below, where people often sunbathe and walk. It's also the area where officials want to move the rail line away from the beach into a tunnel. It would be a permanent solution to coastal erosion halting train service. But those plans don't sit very well with some of Del Mar residents because they include an underground tunnel running under the town.
Who does not want a tunnel in Del Mar? Raise your hand.
Thank you.
During a recent city council meeting, Sandag gave residents an update on the Low Sand Rail realignment project in Del Mar. 5 route options were presented, and 2 of them have been studied more seriously by Sandag. Deputy CEO Colleen Clemenson explains why.
So this just really helps to inform the process. It doesn't necessarily take anything else off the table. It just gives us this finer level of detail to really understand the constraints that we're dealing with in this project.
The state has given a $300 million grant to study the best options. The 2 routes that were analyzed run underneath 2 roads, Camino Del Mar and Crest Canyon.
And as we started to do that more detailed analysis, we came to understand that we didn't actually need as big a tunnel as we thought. It can actually be smaller.
But Clemenson says the analysis doesn't mean the other options are eliminated. Reverend Paige Blair Hubert is the director of St. Peter's Church, which is sandwiched between the 2 studied routes.
So we're pretty familiar with this soil, and we very recently did a construction project in which we dug an elevator shaft. And it was actually the most hairy part of the project.
Blair Hubert says before a shovel went into the ground, soil tests and engineering had to be cleared, but nothing predicted what they found once digging began.
The sides were coming in on themselves, and it was like they were trying to shovel glitter.
Her concern is what will come out of the environmental studies that have yet to be done.
If the soil is already problematic where they have the train tracks, and it's problematic because of the vibration and the use and all of that, and erosion, etc., then tunneling through the earth, creating erosion opportunities and more vibration opportunities. It just seems pretty problematic.
Some residents think it would be better to move the tracks near the I-5 freeway. But Clemenson with Sandag says the I-5 route comes with challenges.
With I-5, when you kind of look at some of the other options, it's further away from the existing rail corridor. So we have to build more infrastructure. That increases cost.
And Clemenson says more tracks mean a larger impact to homes and businesses.
We absolutely want to minimize the amount of property that has to be purchased, but we know no matter what with this project, there will be the need for property acquisition.
And longer rail lines means an increase in travel time too, which Sandag doesn't want. The train between San Diego and Orange County has been halted over and over again because of another trouble spot in San Clemente.
Because what's been happening is that individual sections will compete against each other for grants.
State Senator Catherine Blakespear says the responsibility for the 350-mile-long corridor currently falls among multiple agencies.
And they'll also make their own just internal decisions about whether the transit agency wants to make an improvement to that section.
Blakespear says the agencies need to come together and prioritize projects, not compete for funding. And right now, the attention falls on Del Mar. A final design for Del Mar won't be announced until 2026. Until then, Sandag plans on conducting studies and talking to the public. Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
And Sandag invites the public to weigh in on the plans Wednesday evening from 6:30 to 8:30 at Del Mar Town Hall. A San Bernardino County school district is being sued by the state over its new policy requiring schools to notify parents if their children change their gender identification. The Chino Valley Unified School District adopted the policy following a shift in leadership on the school board. Under the policy, parents will be notified in writing if children request to be identified as a gender other than the one listed on official records or accessing segregated activities or facilities like bathrooms, and of any injuries or threats to their children. Attorney General Rob Bonta says the policy violates transgender students' civil rights.
That the policy discriminates against transgender and gender nonconforming students. That it has already harmed and continues to threaten their mental, emotional, and physical well-being.
Bonta also says he believes other schools that have adopted similar policies will be affected, although they are not named in the suit. A Chino Valley Unified spokesperson says the district is working with its attorneys to review the lawsuit and has been providing state officials with requested documents.
I'm Amna Nawaz. Tonight on the News Hour, a judge orders the federal trial of former President Trump to start before the next election. That's coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
Florida is under a state of emergency as Tropical Storm Idalia churns off of the coast. The storm is forecast to rapidly intensify and strike the Gulf Coast as a major Category 3 hurricane. Patrick Cornell has the latest.
States of emergencies are being declared in Florida counties.
Pretty much anybody on the west coast of Florida, I mean, you can see major impacts, and so please prepare accordingly.
It's time to take this storm seriously. Your last full day to prepare is today.
Sandbags are being distributed and put into place. Windows and doors being boarded up, and storm drains are being cleared to prevent clogging and flooding.
It's better to be prepared versus not prepared and have regrets.
Evacuation orders are being issued to areas expecting direct impacts along the Gulf Coast.
We want everyone not to be there when that storm hits. We do not want to find people in their homes.
Schools across the state are closing, and the National Guard has been activated.
We have 2,500 guardsmen and airmen that are pre-staged, but 3,000 more are currently being mobilized and are on the way for a total of 5,500, and they'll have at their disposal 2,400 high-wheel vehicles, 12 aircraft.
Florida officials are not mincing words when warning the wrath Idalia has the potential to unleash.
Storm surge can be life-threatening at just 2 to 3 feet. Some of these areas are going to experience storm surge well over 7 foot. There's not a person in this room that's over 7 foot tall.
These storms are unpredictable. That cone of uncertainty is just that. It's uncertain. It's
up to Mother Nature to where the storm's going to hit and to what intensity it's going to hit.
Patrick Cornell, KPBS News.
More young adults are being diagnosed with certain kinds of cancer, and two groups of people are most affected by the rise in rates. Mandy Gaither has a look at the research.
Women and adults in their 30s seem to be driving a rise in early onset cancer diagnosis rates.
Just to get the definition straight, if a cancer is diagnosed before the age of 50, it's considered an early onset diagnosis.
In a study published in JAMA Network Open, researchers found the rate of cancer diagnosis rose in adults in their 30s from 2010 to 2019, but remained stable over that period in other under 50 age groups, while the rate of cancer in those 50 and older is going down.
If you go back to 2010, there was roughly 100 per 100,000 diagnoses made in that population of people, again, under the age of 50. Fast forward 10 years and it's gone up to close to 103, so about a 3% increase.
Researchers found early onset cancers were going up fastest among people who identify as American Indian, Alaska Natives, Asians, and Hispanics. Cancers with the highest number of early onset cases diagnosed in 2019 were breast, thyroid, and colorectal cancers.
The percentage of the country that is obese at this young age now is higher than it's ever been.
Health experts believe that's one possible reason for the rise, along with smoking and lack of exercise. Researchers also think screening for these cancers has become more sensitive.
We are better at finding these cancers earlier. The screenings are happening, or they're more sensitive, so we may be finding more cancers that way.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
A recent study found CTE may be more prevalent than previously believed, especially in amateur athletes. Boston University analyzed 152 donated brains from athletes under the age of 30 at the time of their death. 63 had developed early signs of CTE. Unlike past studies, most of the athletes were on youth, high school, or college teams. The youngest person diagnosed was a 17-year-old football player. A 28-year-old collegiate soccer player was also the first female to be diagnosed. Even with more people working remotely or hybrid, traffic is still a headache. KPBS reporter Jacob Ayers says a new study reveals that commuting to a job may be costing San Diegans more than they think.
How much is your commute to work really taking from you? A new study shows commuters in San Diego lose an average of $6,200 in wages per year due to an average 45-minute round-trip commute. It's similar in Chula Vista and even worse in Oceanside. And many lower-income workers have no choice but to drive, says Circulate San Diego's Colin Parent.
We can't be talking about working from home for bus drivers, for nurses, for school teachers. That we really do need to take into account and think about how to improve people's commutes.
That being said, there are remote and hybrid options for certain fields, which has its own set of perks and drawbacks.
For workers, avoiding those commutes has a impact on productivity and quality of life. And I think from an employer standpoint, you'd be far happier for somebody to be working and being productive rather than sitting for a couple hours on our freeways.
Eric Bruvold of the San Diego North Economic Development Council says commute times are going to continue to get longer unless we change where people can afford to live.
Some of the things that are driving these commute costs are the fact that housing proximate to employment sites is in scarce supply. And that drives up the cost. It forces people to live further and further afield.
Parent says in addition to housing, more functional mass transit could cut down on those costs.
We made the bus run more frequently, make the trolley run more frequently. If we built more bike lanes, then more people would be able to get to where they're going at a faster rate without having to be stuck in traffic.
The study shows that roughly 9 to 12% of annual wages in San Diego County go straight into a gas tank. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
Tomorrow kicks off what many businesses downtown hope will become a summertime staple in San Diego. More than 35 restaurants will open their doors for the inaugural Taste of the East Village. One of those restaurants will be City Tacos. Owner Gerald Torres says this is their time to shine and show people what the East Village is all about.
It showcases the local talent. I think that it reminds people of their local gems. It also pushes them to patronize these restaurants, which keeps them going and improving.
And Taste of East Village runs from 4 to 8 p.m. tomorrow through Wednesday. Tickets are available for $40 plus a service fee, and we have a link to purchase tickets on our website.
Alrighty, let's start you off with your weather headlines. What you need to know, well, it's still going to be hot over the next day or so. Mostly sunny from the coast to the deserts, but we are dealing with some mid-late week cooling, so that's going to be a welcome relief to this intense heat. We do have excessive heat warnings in effect through Tuesday evening for areas further inland, Ramona included, and we're going to be watching heat advisories as we head towards the mountains because they're also heating up. Mount Laguna, heads up, it's still going to be quite hot, and then excessive heat warnings as we head even further east into parts of the deserts. Now, surviving the heat, tips to stay cool, limit strenuous activity to early and the late part of the day. Wear lightweight and light colored clothing and keep watch on pets. Make sure our furry friends are not out in the heat. Children, make sure you're checking your back seats, and seniors, check on your neighbors too, those who are most vulnerable to the heat. All right, tonight we're dropping down to a low of 66 in San Diego, mainly clear. Now, around the rest of the area, well, look at this. Borrego Springs, you're just dropping down to a low of 84, so you're not really getting much relief from that intense heat. But as we head into tomorrow afternoon, I mean, look at this. Mount Laguna coming in with a high of 80, so it is going to be hot for those areas. Borrego Springs, 114, so triple-digit teens on the way. Wow, San Diego with a high of 84, so it is going to be quite toasty across the region. But again, like I said, we do have relief on the way, which is the good news, right? So 5-day outlook along the coast. Well, we're going to be dipping back down to the 70s by Thursday. Patchy fog, then sun. That's going to be the story for the late week heading into the weekend. Could cause some minor delays on the roads. Further inland, a similar story starting on Thursday, but we are going to be dropping back down to the 80s for the middle and end of the week. And then for the mountains, well, we have a high of 80 Tuesday, then we sharply start to drop back down to the 60s by Thursday. And then as we head towards the deserts, well, triple-digit teens Tuesday, but look at that, we are gradually going to be back down to the 90s by Friday. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Bree Guy.
The 2023 Little League World Series champs call Southern California home, and this year's tournament ended in a dramatic way in Williamsport. El Segundo's Luis Lappy hit a walk-off home run to clinch the win over the team from Curacao. There was a lot of cheer for this year, including the team from Tijuana that delivered Mexico's best showing at the Little League World Series since 2013. KPBS is bringing you an ongoing series on public art. For this installment, video journalist Matt Bowler has the story of San Diego artists who make art in public that's also about the public.
They wear out shoe leather. They talk to strangers.
I'm freelance and I'm at Voice of San Diego.
They move through our shared spaces like ballerinas. For them, the public is the source of art.
I actually started doing some street photography before I got into photojournalism. So that was in 2010, 2011, just walking around, taking photos.
Street photography means depicting ordinary life, and it's one of the oldest photographic styles. Chantel Paul is the Galleries and Exhibitions Coordinator for San Diego State University's 4 galleries.
Street photography is a style of photography that quite often is referred to as something that's really capturing the energy or essence of life on the street.
She says the desire to document San Diego comes out of a sense of pride.
I think the fact that people are working in our city in this way, it also elevates San Diego in a way to say people want to share what the city is. They want to create a portrait of the city.
Jason Santiago says this style is a cousin to photojournalism.
Streets like photojournalism without purpose. I'm just documenting everyday life.
Ariana Dreschler is a photojournalist for Voice of San Diego. Even on assignment, sometimes the street gives her something beautiful.
Months ago when I photographed the point in time count, I saw this woman at like 7 a.m. feeding birds, maybe even earlier. The light was amazing, and you have all these birds.
Santiago says San Diego street photography can show us that who we are today is as important as who we were in the past.
So there's a lot to be said about what's happening right now versus what happened 20, 30, 40 years ago.
Street photography is about the public, and it's made in public. So in some ways, it is public art. Paul says access is surprisingly easy on Instagram.
You know, you can filter your feed to look at certain hashtags to start to find certain accounts. And then you can keep following those. You can reach out to people. There's like a huge community aspect to Instagram.
And best of all, it's free. Matt Buller, KPBS News.
And both Ariana Dreschler and Jason Santiago's street photography can be found on their Instagram pages, and both are linked at kpbs.org/public art. And here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS Newsroom. COVID cases are rising as a new variant starts to spread. On NPR's Morning Edition, when can we expect from the latest booster shot, and who should get it? And KPBS Midday Edition is talking to mayors across San Diego County to see what each city is doing to address homelessness. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.